Hey, real quick before we start, today's episode is all about how Stanley reframed their story and turned a dying brand into a culture moment. And I want that for you. So I created something called the Story Brand session, 90 minutes, just us co creating your brand story from scratch. You leave with a 5-day content plan that actually sounds like you. If you've been waiting to get your story straight, this is it. Grab your spot, links in the bio. Okay, let's talk Stanley. Hello, hello, hello. Happy Tuesday, and welcome back to yet another episode of Think Brand, Talk Brand. And as you heard in the last episode, I was doing a real deep dive on what are the brands missing out on their storyboard arc. So I want to begin with another storyboard arc that I think is going to be so interesting. So stick around. This is going to be fun. What if I told you that one of the most powerful brand pivots in the last decade didn't come from a boardroom or a rebrand agency or a $1 million campaign? It came from a group of women on a blog who just really loved a cup. And the brand almost missed it entirely. Today, we are doing a live brand audit on Stanley, and I'm going to show you exactly how to read a brand story the way I read it with clients. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. And more importantly, you can apply it directly to your own brand. So, we are discussing about Stanley today. Yes, Stanley has been around since 1913. Can you believe that? A man named William Stanley Jr. invented the all steel vacuum bottle, and for over 100 years, this was a brand for men, construction workers, hunters, hikers, outdoor men, rugged, green, durable. That was the whole story. Fast forward to 2019, a group of women bloggers called the Buy Guide discovered the Stanley Quench tumbler, a 40-ounce cup with a handle and a straw. They loved it. They wrote about it. They told their audience. Here's the part nobody talks about. Stanley was about to discontinue the Quencher. It wasn't moving in their channels, it didn't fit their brand story. The women at the Buy Guide reached out directly to Stanley, pitched an affiliate deal, and within days sold out Stanley's entire inventory. Stanley saw the data and made a choice. They leaned in. Revenue went from 70 million in 2019 to 750 million in 2023. So I really want to audit. Yeah, this is like a hyper audit of this amazing brand. What happened and how did they do it? So I'm going to use the same framework that I use with my clients when we are doing story work. And this is going to be seriously fun. So I think Stanley's storyboard answered the 4 questions, if you look at it, right? The 4 questions that we need to look at whenever we're looking at a good brand story. So, every brand story, good or broken, can be diagnosed with these 4 questions. Who is the hero? I mentioned that about the last time also. If you've heard my last episode, if you haven't, please go back to it. The hint here obviously is we are not talking about your brand. You know who we're talking about when it's the hero. Who is the villain, right? The problem system, a belief the hero is fighting. What is the transformation? And what does the hero become based on what you offer? Does every touch point consistently tells the same story? So we're going to run Stanley through all 4, okay? Hold on. First, the old story, then the new one, and the gap between the two is your masterclass today. Okay, audit part 1. The old Stanley story, right? So if you look at the old Stanley story through these 4 questions, who is the hero? It was a man, specifically a man doing physical, outdoor work, demanding work, construction, hunting, camping. The brand's visual identity and the product range and distribution all kind of confirmed this, right? In this story, who was the villain? The villain was heat, cold, rough conditions, elements that all like very masculine in the nature, right? The villain was environmental. So your equipment's failing you in the field. What was the transformation that they were providing? They were providing transformation where you become the guy whose gear never fails him, and the gear never fails him. So it's reliable. It is, the gear is reliable. He's prepared. That's all so masculine. Every touch point tell the same story? Yes, absolutely. I think the color, military green, the weight, solid heavy, the distribution, hardware stores, the imagery, men all said the same thing. So in a way, you look at it, the story was quite good. It fixed. It's answering all the questions. So the old Stanley story was actually well built. It was just built for a completely different hero than the one showing up to buy, right? So, I mean, a consistent story built for the wrong hero is still a broken story. Don't you think so? Consistency alone isn't enough. You have the reflection here is that you have to look deeper and you have to be consistent with in the right direction for the right hero. Now comes the pivot, right? Like what actually happened that changed the game for Stanley. When the Buy Guides audience started buying the Quencher, something interesting happened. The story the customers were telling about Stanley was completely different from the story Stanley was telling about itself. And this is an interesting point because a lot of times when I'm doing a positioning exercise with a new brand that's working with me or brand that's going through a rebrand, I always tell them that whenever you look at positioning, hold it loosely because your market will define it for you. And that's the best positioning that you can have, right? You lead with a positioning that you think is great compared to all the factors you have. But you have to give it testing time for some time. I mean, obviously, in Stanley's case, it's over 100 years, so that's not the exact example. But I'm just trying to say that the right positioning is always driven by the market. Your idea of the positioning is the fire starter, but what will actually light it up is your market, is your audience. So here, when the Buy Guys audience started buying the Quencher, something interesting was happening, right? The story the customers were telling about Stanley was completely different than what the story Stanley was saying about itself. The customers weren't saying things like, this keeps my drink cold for 11 hours. They were saying, this is the only cup I'll use now. I got the pink one. I can't stop looking at it. I feel like I have my life together when I'm carrying this. They weren't talking about the product's features, they were telling a story about who they become when they carry it. That's the point. Stanley had your choice, right? Fight the new story and stay loyal to the original brand or follow where the customers were already going and rebuilding the story around this. And they chose her, right? And the rebuild was strategic, not accidental. New colors launched as limited drops created scarcity, urgency, community, a Target partnership, meeting her exactly where she already shops, right? Like Target is, what it is. Like all the commentary around Target is not enough for women who can just get lost in a paradise called Target. So they met them there. Collaboration with Starbucks, with influencers, everything inspiring her world, right? Because now the hero was her. Every decision reinforced this new story. Now, the second part, right? Like, let's run the new Stanley through the same four questions. I would love to again relook at it with the same questions. Now, the hero has changed. It's a woman, busy, intentional, style conscious, values both function and beauty. She's juggling a full life and she wants the things she carries to feel like her. This isn't just a cup, it's a daily ritual object. She's everywhere. She's the mom at school drop off, the professional at her desk, the woman at the gym who has her life together. And interestingly, who was the villain here, right? Like, think about it. Two villains actually. First, dehydration disguised as busyness, the version of her that forgets to take care of herself because she's too busy taking care of everything else. Second, the false belief that practical things can't be beautiful, that self care tools have to be clinical and boring. Stanley dismantled it. Now, when I say about the villain, it's not a person. We are looking at a system that is constantly trying to, you know, make our hero's life miserable in some way, right? So this is how you have to think of it. Like, it's a belief system, it's a industry, it's a way of being that is not working for a hero, correct? And if you have to think about the transformation, like, she becomes the woman who takes care of herself even in the chaos. Oh, I love this so much. Like, somehow that cup is helping her being put together, feeling organized. She has this cup which signals to the world and to herself that she shows up intentionally, and collecting the colors, that became such a community thing, that it felt that belonging over there. So, does every touch point of Stanley tell the same story? This is where it gets brilliant. Seriously, yes, it completely and consistently does that, right? So, it has limited color drops, always creating the scarcity that creates community events, not just purchases. The Target partnership. She shops there, they met her in her world. They didn't make her come somewhere else to get her, but they met her in the world. Of course, social media played a huge part in this campaign. We cannot take that away. The user generated content, in what's in my Stanley video, the color collection halls, all of that, like, just this absolutely created the insanity around it, that happened, right? Of course, they obviously got the influence strategy as well, not just celebrities but real women who look like the audience, the actual hero. And I think that is the point, because you want to feel included in the story rather than, just like, so much luxury that you can't even think that it's yours. So every single touch point whispered the same story. You are the kind of woman who chooses well, who shows up for herself, who belongs here. Woof. The car fire moment, when the brand story becomes brand action. In late 2023, a woman posted a video of her car after it caught fire. The car was obviously totaled, and sitting in the cup holder completely intact was her Stanley with eyes still in it. The video went viral, and Stanley's CEO responded publicly saying he would replace her car. Now, here's what I want you to notice: that response wasn't a PR stunt. It was the story made visible. The story was, this cup shows up for you even when everything else fails. And in that moment, the CEO lived the story out loud. He didn't write a press release, he backed the brand's promise with action. This is what story with full integrity looks like. When your brand decision and your brand story are the same thing, you don't have to perform it, you just act, and the story tells itself. So, what can you steal from this? I think three things, right? Like, one, your customers are already telling you what your brand story is. That's what I always say. Go back to what your customers are telling you before you hire a copywriter, before you rebrand. Go and read your DMs, your testimonials, your comments. Like, what word are they using for you? What transformation are they describing? That language is your brand story in a raw form. Then it's your job to amplify it, to invent it, and to craft it. And essentially, to a story built for the wrong hero is still a broken story, right? So we can have a great story, but if the hero is not the one that you are going for, I think, Stanley's old story was beautifully constructed. It just had the wrong person at the center of it. If your messaging isn't converting, before you change the words, change the hero. Make sure your customers see herself, not you, not your offer, and not your credentials. Consistency is your most underrated brand strategy. Honestly, the new Stanley didn't just change their colors, it changed every touch point to match that new story: distribution, partnerships, content, pricing strategy. That was what made the pivot stick. Like, they really went after it, right? One campaign alone never does it. If you think that you're going to just relaunch with this loud sound, but you're not going to back it up with all of these things: distribution, partnerships, content, pricing, like, it's not going to stick. It's the same accumulation of every decision pointing in the same direction. So, guys, what I just walked you through is essentially what happens inside my offer of story brand intensive. Except we do it together, and I do it for your brand. We identify who your real hero is. We name the villain your ideal client is actually fighting for. We map the transformation your offer creates, and then we make sure every touch point you have tells the same story consistently, powerfully, without you having to explain it to death. So Stanley didn't write better copy, they rebuilt the map underneath the copy, and that's exactly what I want to help you do. The storyboard intensive is opening soon. I've just rounding up with my beta clients, and now the offer is going to go live, and I'll have all the details for you in the next episode. But if you already know you need this, you can, I'm going to drop a link in the show notes. So if you really want to do it, you know how to get in touch with me to help you craft the story. So if today's auditor gave you that, oh, that's what I'm missing feeling, I want to hear about it. Okay. Drop your comments on this episode, but also check out the link that helps you know how to work with me on the storyboard. So until next week, she brands, she builds, she becomes the category. All right, this is me, Shivani, signing off. See you next time.